Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Huber begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Travellers coming to Tasmania from low or medium risk areas could soon be forced into quarantine if transiting through Sydney Airport as the COVID crisis there deepens. Tasmanians can now freely travel to and from the Sunshine State with borders open from today. It comes as the state's tourism operators meet for their annual conference, hoping to capture some of that highly sought-after mainland market.
Just the one plane from Brisbane touched down in Tasmania today. With demand high, it's expected the number of flights will grow.
Over the next week or two, we're certainly looking to see Brisbane services rebound to where they were pre-lockdown.
In the midst of border changes, the Tasmanian Tourism Conference brought together operators from around the state.
It's really good to get everyone back together and sort of joining up and seeing where we can go from now.
A chance to glean information from some experienced heads.
I think they're looking for building stones. I think they've got a lot of questions on whether they might be interested in starting a business or whether working in tourism.
This year's focus, regenerative tourism, the state doubling down on its environmentally friendly identity.
So we often talk about visitor numbers and visitor yield, but really communities are the hosts, and we need to ensure that they're benefiting more from tourism.
The generation coming through, you know, from in the next 5 to 6 years will expect this sort of thing. Then they've grown up with it, it's ingrained in them through their schools.
The seminar using the Tamar River as a case study, both for its potential if the murky waters were cleaned up and the opportunity to include place-based experiences.
We're saying to operators, consider those things as a way of moving your venture, your activity forward. From an Aboriginal perspective, it's all about understanding place and story.
The conference continues tomorrow. If nothing else, it's an extra night of bookings for struggling hotels as interstate lockdowns roll on. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania has declared New Zealand high risk from today, meaning anyone who has been in that country in the last fortnight will not be permitted into the state unless they're an essential traveller. The Tasmanian government has denied misleading voters on poker machine policy. Right to information documents have revealed the Premier wrote to the federal group disclosing proposed tax rates in December last year, figures that weren't released publicly until after the election.
Surveying works on the new Sorrel bypass. The Minister confident it's on track to be completed by the end of next year.
We really are seeking to ensure that the congestion which occurs is busted.
This, I think, shows what we can do when the state and federal governments work together.
But the state government was today accused of working too closely with federal group on poker machine taxes. Right to information documents obtained by independent MP Meg Webb, revealing the Premier wrote to the gaming giant last December, informing them of proposed tax cuts. Figures not made public until July this year, months after the state election.
So when the Premier was asked repeatedly, as that election was called, what the tax rate was, he avoided answering at a time that he well and truly knew the answer.
And it should be regarded as completely and utterly unacceptable to the community.
The Finance Minister today defending the move.
Ms Webb is deliberately muddying the waters. This is a normal way that policy is developed.
Saying it wasn't made public because a decision hadn't been finalised.
Well, it might have been a vote winner if we had have, but the fact is that the government hadn't made such decisions at that point in time before we went into caretaker.
But Meg Webb says that's not good enough.
That the discount being given to federal group for their pokies taxes will be about $250 million over the life of this licence. That's money not going to the Tasmanian community.
Federal MP Andrew Wilkie also expressing his disappointment.
Regrettably, we have to wait until the next election to hold this government to account.
The legislation is expected to be brought to Parliament before the end of this year. Next Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
A Tasmanian teenager who was once sleeping rough has spoken out about the difficulty of finding social housing. Isaac Edgerton's story is prompting calls for the state government to provide more dedicated public housing for at-risk youth.
When Isaac Edgerton left home 2 years ago, he didn't foresee the long journey ahead to find accommodation.
I got into this youth hostel. I lived there for a couple of months, and then I was back on the streets again.
The 18-year-old was couch surfing for a year and a half and living on the streets before he was eventually placed into supported living.
It makes it a whole lot easier. Like, it takes a whole lot of stress off my mind. I can go to work and I can come home and actually have a place I can stay.
According to Colony 47, COVID-19 has impacted Tasmania's already stretched property market.
Rentals are going up, which makes it pretty difficult, and a lot of young people are on very low incomes as well.
Up to 900 young Tasmanians are currently on the social housing waitlist, with around 500 accessing homeless support in the last year alone. There are calls for the state government to offer up longer-term solutions and provide further support for at-risk youth.
If there's 20 to 25% of the waitlist as young people, we should be seeing at least 20% of the funds being allocated to stock that's suitable for those young people.
We'll be building 1,500 homes. We're on track to have those completed, not in 3 years as we've often said, but now in 2 years.
Something Isaac hopes will help more young people sleeping rough.
It would be better for young people to be able to easily get into accommodation, because it's really hard.
Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government has rubbished claims it has no plan for the future of TasTAFE. The Education Union claims teachers have not been consulted about major shake-ups to the sector proposed almost half a year ago.
There's barely a head of hair Mackenzie Ma can't transform.
I just love the creative freedom, like being a hairdresser.
Next week, she'll fly to Western Australia to test her styling skills against the country's best apprentice hairdressers for the World Skills National Championships.
Judges look for current designs, what's happening in the hairdressing world.
Enrolments in the course are continuing to surge, but as these students plot their future through TAFE, there's questions over the state government's future for TAFE.
We actually don't know what the plan is for TasTAFE.
A report in March recommended the training hub shift from a government-owned to a government-managed model, a move largely praised by industry. But 5 months on, the Education Union insists teachers remain in the dark about the proposed reform.
Are we state service employees? Are we under Fair Work? What does that mean for the rights and the wages and the conditions?
The Liberals promised almost $100 million for TAFE ahead of the state election. That included a commitment to recruit an extra 100 teachers. Skeptics want to know how.
I'd like to know where they're going to get them from and how much they're willing to pay them extra to attract them.
The state government maintains it has consulted with the vocational sector and will continue to do so over the coming months.
We've got a very strong plan to support TAFE, and in fact, it's a very positive future.
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
Apple growers are being asked to bury a pair of their undies to check soil health on their properties. The quirky campaign by the Agriculture Institute, helping growers see how much activity is in the ground.
For the best tasting apples, soil health has to be worked on all year round.
We'll put compost down as well. We're forever mulching all of our cuttings and everything back into the soil.
And for good reason. It's crucial for the fruit that will line these trees in the coming months.
There's so many different aspects in fruit quality that can be changed by the soil health.
But it's not something that can be spotted easily. The Tasmanian Institute of Agriculture has one solution: sending out these tighty-whities to be buried.
It's a really good way of visualising their soil health, because you can't just dig up soil and say, oh, I've got a really healthy soil or I haven't.
If your undies look like this, it's normally a bad thing. But here, digging up a tattered pair after 8 weeks is a good sign.
There's lots of different things that live in the soil. There's insects, worms, but then there's also things like fungi and bacteria that degrade the components of the cotton.
But why undies?
Well, underwear's fun and it's a bit sexy, even though the ones we've got aren't terribly glamorous.
I think it'd be quite interesting to bury them and see how they come out. I'm assuming they'll be pretty well chewed apart.
Growers can contact the TIA to receive a pair before planting them on September 1. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
A Hobart-based organisation helping Tasmanian women looking for work has received a valuable cash donation. Dress for Success securing $10,000 from the latest round of the Harcourt Foundation grant process. The charity helps women with resume writing, interview preparation and styling.
Women actually do face greater discrimination when it comes to what they wear and what they look like. So we're trying to give women the edge that they need.
In the space of an hour, it's not just about the way they look, but shoulders up, smile, confidence.
The donation will be used to expand its capacity.
He's braved Bass Strait to come to Tasmania, and now Jack McVeigh is keen to make his mark for the Jack Jumpers this coming NBL season. The squad is slowly coming together ahead of the pre-season, but the assistant coach admits the quarantine process will impact some players.
Embracing the spirit of the new club.
Now I'm about to board the Spirit of Tasmania, and I'm looking forward to getting in a nice bed, man, stretching the legs out.
Using the sponsor's product to travel to Hobart via a lengthy non-stop drive from Adelaide to Melbourne, Jack McVeigh is ready to build the NBL's newest franchise.
Started something special in Tassie. You know, I could feel the energy, I could sense it. You get to start lay down the foundations of something special to come, and that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Joining from the Adelaide 36ers, he is promising to bring energy to the MyState Bank Arena court.
I love what I do, that's playing basketball, and you know, the fans will know that, my teammates will know that, and it'll be something that we'll get to be around every day.
The inaugural roster is now complete, with focus turning to training and making friends with each other. But with some players still in quarantine, it will be some time before the full squad can mix.
We usually said 2 weeks in quarantine means 2 weeks of build-up, so we'll build them up slowly under Harrison and Ryan's guidance, and then we'll get them on the floor and get them going.
Really, the only person I've had physical contact with is Clint Sandel, so me and him getting to know each other today. I'm looking forward to our first shootout together, give him a little challenge, and been texting the other guys.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
It has been another week of confusion for our NBL 1 sides. Only 24 hours after the league asked the state's 4 teams to play one another this weekend, the idea was scrapped today. It'll mean Tasmania's teams haven't played for 6 weeks. The Tasmanian Tigers will have 2 representatives in the 18-woman squad selected to face India. Nicola Carey and Molly Strano will soon be off to the team camp ahead of the multi-format series. The lure of playing test matches, a rarity for women's cricket outside the Ashes, is proving to be an exciting opportunity.
It gives young girls the aspiration to want to one day wear a baggy green too. So, yeah, as a bit of an old school traditionalist, I'm more than happy to see a lot of test matches pop up. So it'll be an amazing experience to sort of play that against India. It's something we haven't done that in quite some time.
The series is scheduled to begin with a one-day match in Sydney next month, broadcast on 7 Tasmania.
Good evening. Temperatures near or just above average today. Hobart 13, Launceston and Devonport 14, Burnie 15 degrees. 16 at St Helens the high after Ross and Lake Leak recorded the low of -5. Bushy Park and Wynyard 15, Flinders Island, Friendly Beaches and Grove 14, King Island and Lowhead 13, Strawn a cool 12 degrees. An extensive area of cloud over and surrounding Tasmania, small pockets of clear sky to the east and northeast. Some scattered cloud is over WA due to a trough, cumulus cloud for Victoria, while a frontal band of cloud is south of the Bight. Tomorrow the high still has a pretty good presence over most of the country. A cold front develops on the trough south of the Bight, with further fronts to the southwest of that. Westerly winds at 10 to 20 knots, tending northwesterly during the late morning, swells to 3.5 metres. We have a strong wind warning for waters between Tasman Island and southeast Cape. Bit of cloud about for Hobart tomorrow, 15 the top, 15 also for Cygnet, a top of 16 for New Norfolk. Launceston, partly cloudy and 16, 14 the top for Devonport on a possible shower, a morning frost for Campbelltown and 15 the maximum. Burnie, a high of 14 with a light shower or 2, possible shower for Strawn on 14 and also a light shower for Smithton, expecting 15. 15 also for St Helens but partly cloudy in the east, Swansea 15, Fingal a cold start and 16 the top later. On Friday, showers over the north and west as light showers develop elsewhere. A bit of wet weather for the weekend, showers to start the day on Saturday before contracting to the west, but on Sunday the wet weather a little more far-reaching with fresh to strong northwesterly winds as well. Showers in Perth. Partly cloudy over Adelaide and Melbourne tomorrow, sunny in Canberra and Sydney, 23 and partly cloudy in Brisbane. Partly cloudy right now in Hobart, 12 degrees, Launceston 9 and mostly cloudy in Devonport 11. And amongst that rain over the weekend, Louisa, maybe a touch of snow on the peaks as well Saturday night.
Certainly was. Thank you for that, Mert. And that's all your news for now. I'll be back later on with updates. Thanks so much for joining us. Good night.